thought, no, I haven't tried one of those. And I said, well, do you think you can handle it? I said, well, it's not the red ones. Obviously, the red is a little hotter. I was like, yeah, I can handle that. Words without knowledge. They handed it to me, and they said, all right, try a little bite. Let's see how you do. And I was like, little bite? It's like green pepper. It's tiny. I can take it. So I took the whole thing off, scraped the stem, sent it to the back, where I chewed out those back teeth, and all the juices flowed out. And apparently the trauma in my mouth stopped even the tears from coming, because my eyes didn't even water. I just felt it burning everywhere. Down my throat, in my lungs, felt like I was going to cough, in my nose. Way hotter than anything I'd had before. Because my eyes didn't water, they said, is it okay? Yeah. And I turned around about 3 steps later, that's when the water started coming. So I went and I sat down in my car and I ate a sandwich and tried to get it going. For the rest of the day, it felt like there was blisters in my mouth. Oh my goodness. Didn't even want to breathe through my mouth. It hurt too much, so I was walking around tearing the panels. Words without knowledge. A couple of years before that, I had decided to learn how to snowboard. I lived in Colorado.
All right.
And so I went up there and I was going down the buggy slope, the little tiny one, just learning. And pretty soon I got up and my instructor said, you're doing a great job. You're a natural at this. Well, that then to me meant that I could do anything on the mountain. And so I asked her, when we were finishing, I asked her, well, where do you go to snowboard? She's like, oh, I go up this lift and I go over to the green lift and I take that lift up. I do that. And she said, but it's really hard. We don't want to do that yet. So I went down the buggy slope a couple more times and I thought, I can do that. I'm a natural. She said it. So I took the lift up, went over green lift, up to the top, got to the top, and because I hadn't been there before, I didn't know what the symbols meant. And I saw a nice little black in the shape of a diamond. And it said, snowboard park, this way. I was like, oh, snowboard park. Well, that's where I'm supposed to go, because I'm on a snowboard. So I made it down the first part of the hill, and then there was a curve. Right going down the curve, I couldn't see what was next. Like, it just dropped off. So I was already going so fast, there was nothing else I could do. So I went over the edge, shot down. Fortunately, the snowboard park sign was around the end to level out, so I survived that first part. But I came around the corner, and as I went shooting down, a group of my friends was standing at the bottom watching me. And there was a 40-foot jump. And I thought, I can do this. So I was shooting down there, got to the top of the jump. And when I got near the top, there was a spot where the ice had formed. There had been a lot of wind, and there's ice and ridges. So already I was going up, didn't know what to do at that point. Started hopping along these ridges, because I didn't know you're supposed to take it at an angle. So I went flatboard, went off the edge of the 40-foot jump, landed in that orange netting wire they use, the netting fence that they use like for events downtown and stuff. It flipped me over, wrapped me up, and I was upside down with my snowboard in the air, but I wasn't touching the ground. Words without knowledge. I can do this. When you say things or believe things, but you don't understand, it can really put you in a bit of a bind. Also, words without knowledge sometimes can let you in on something amazing that's about to happen. In 2 Kings chapter 6, we've been traveling with Elisha for a while, and the king decides he needs to capture Elisha. In 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 24, it says that Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, mobilized his entire army and marched up and laid siege to Samaria. There was a great famine in the city. Sorry, I won't go before that. I'm in verse 15. Sorry, right before he laid siege to Samaria. He surrounded this other city because he needs to capture Elisha. And Elisha's servant, in verse 15, says, when the servant of the man of God got up and went out early the next morning, an army with horses and chariots surrounded the city. Oh, my Lord, what shall we do? The servant asked. Don't be afraid, the prophet answered. Those who are with us are more than those who are with them. And Elisha prayed, O Lord, open his eyes so he may see. Then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. If you remember the rest of that story, Elisha actually just walks out and greets the army, and they're blinded. And he ends up leading the army into the trap that they have for them. There's a number of stories that all fit into those. Blinded people, servants not sure what they can see. But the saying in my title this morning is not from a silly story of someone thinking they could do not a story with a happy ending where the words without knowledge are instantly showing that nothing bad will happen. You're protected from the beginning. Instead, it's from the book of Job. If we look at the beginning, most people are quite familiar with this story. There's a council in heaven of all the angels, and Satan is allowed to come to this conference. And as he walks in, the Lord says, "Have you considered my servant Job? How he stands upright in all of his ways." And Satan basically says, "Well, of course he is, because you're protecting him, you're blessing him. Who wouldn't want that?" Right. So he says, "Okay, you can don't hurt Job himself, but you can take everything." Within the same day, he gets servants coming. These people came and took all of these herds. These people came and took all of these herds. These people came, and all of a sudden, everything that he owned was being taken away. Then all of his children are having a meeting, and a violent storm comes, and all of his children are killed or collapsed. He's lost everything. And in chapter 1, verse 20, it says that this Job got up, tore his robe, shaved his head, and he fell to the ground and worshipped, and said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave me, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." So, chapter 2 starts. On another day, the angels came to present themselves before the Lord. And Satan had also come with them to present himself before him. And the Lord said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered, "From roaming the earth, going back and forth on it." Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. He still maintains his integrity, though you incited me against him to ruin him without any reason." "Skin for skin," Satan replied. "A man will give all he has for his own life. But stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you to your face." The Lord said to Satan, "Very well then, he's in your hands, but you must spare his life." So, boils and sores, Satan came over from the soles of his feet to the top of his head, to where it says that he took a piece of broken glass just to scrape his skin into some relief. Misery. He's lost everything. Doesn't see a future in it because everything's already gone. And 3 friends come saying that they're coming to comfort him. But let me just read a couple of the things he says here. In chapter 3, verses 3 to 5, he says, "May the day of my birth perish, and the night it was said a boy is born. That day may it turn into darkness. May God above not care about it. May no light shine upon it. May darkness and deep shadow claim it once more. May a cloud, excuse me. May a cloud settle over it. May blackness overwhelm its light." In chapter 3, verses 16 to 26, it says, "Or why was I not hidden in the ground like a stillborn child, like an infant who never saw the light of day? There the wicked cease from turmoil, and the weary are at rest. Captives also enjoy their ease. They no longer hear the slave driver shout. The small and the great are there, and the slave is freed from his master. Why is life given to those in misery, and life to those with bitter soul? To those who long for death that does not come, who search for it more than hidden treasure, who are filled with gladness and rejoice when they reach the grave. Why is life given to a man whose way is hidden, from whom God has hidden it? For sighing comes to me instead of food. My groans pour out like water. What I feared has come upon me. What I dreaded has happened to me. I have no peace, no quietness, no rest, only turmoil." I think there's a lot of times that we feel like that. Something's happening, he's speaking. Something to my soul, it's real. So he's not being false, he's being very real about that. I had a time, I went to a school when I was a freshman, sophomore. I think I've told some stories about that here before. It's a very tough place. It was a little tiny Seventh-day Adventist school like we have here. And I was in the 9th and 10th grade classroom. And we had a really bad situation compared to what my parents had been hoping for me when they placed me there. We had 2 of the kids were drug dealers in town. We had kids on heroin and cocaine, which is a pretty big deal for a little tiny school like that. We had people that were involved in heavy violence and gangs. We had a girl that had gotten a fake ID and was a stripper at the local nightclub. And there was only 9 of us. So, it was a tough place. And I had gained friends there and had a lot of great experiences, but my parents were now ready to move me on to academy. And to me, there was no point in that. we've spent all this time, and I've been in this situation here where it was definitely no better than what all my friends had experienced in school, but I wasn't getting a lot of things I wanted to do. I got very good at that point at basketball, and I was winning tournaments within our system and playing down with other kids at the rec centers and playing very well. I decided I really wanted to get into that. So I made a pitch to my parents. I said, you've seen what's happened the last 2 years. I'm not getting something better. There's still drugs, alcohol, violence. So that's not the issue. And why couldn't I go to this other school and choose to be good and choose to do what's right and be a light to people who need it? Parents weren't really sure what to say to that.
Right.
But in the end, they talked it through. They said, no, you're going to academy. And they shipped me off to go to school all this way. And I was very, very disappointed. I felt like life was very unfair, like my future was gone, because the things I dreamed of didn't matter. And the reasons they gave me for why I was going there were ones I knew weren't necessarily true. So I felt like I was giving everything up for nothing. And I had a lot of despair about that. And I felt like I was cursed. And so I went off to academy. I'll tell you more about that later. I think we all run into those times where it looks like everything's falling apart.
Yeah.
There's been times where I've read these verses up here. Why has light been given to those in misery? And life to the bitter of soul. How come I'm given something I'm supposed to do when I'm miserable? Just let me be done and do nothing. Give this to somebody that has energy. Have you felt that way before?
Yeah.
You've been attacked unjustly, or a dream you've had failed, or something you poured yourself into didn't work.
Yeah.
At least by appearance. And so we pour out our bitterness. And to God, He says, why did you, in verse 16, why was I not hidden in the ground like a stillborn child, like an infant that saw light every day? If I could have just been born dead, I never would have had to experience all this. His friends are not helpful. They basically say, well, you must have done something really bad for this stuff. God doesn't do stuff then unless they're bad. If you're good, it wouldn't happen. Job keeps telling me, tell me what I did. If you know what I did that was wrong, tell me what I did.